For over 20 years now, Kanye West has had one of the greatest careers of all time.
Everybody wants to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
A career that has been fueled by several scandals and much controversy.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Controversy that was looked past simply because of how good his music was. But it seems that time has caught up with Mr. West, as the music no longer papers over the cracks of his problematic personality. There is 3 chapters in this video that explain why it's impossible for Kanye West to continue. Like I mentioned, Kanye is no stranger to controversy. Since the start of his career, he's never been one to shy away from speaking his mind, sometimes for good.
Everybody in hip-hop discriminates against gay people. Tell my rappers, just tell my friends, like, yo, stop it, fam.
But a lot of the time, for bad.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
However, every time the artist would do something that should have gotten him cancelled, he would always return with music of the highest quality. Take for example, the Taylor Swift incident.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
Following the reaction to his memorable speech, the artist would exile himself to Hawaii, where he would produce what many consider to be Kanye's magnum opus, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And just like that, the public had forgave everything that happened at the 2009 VMAs. These musical apologies had always worked for Kanye, until the incident on October the 8th, 2023. The incident that Ye never truly recovered from. The backlash to this tweet saw Kanye face repercussions unlike anything we've ever seen before. He was restricted by Instagram, suspended on Twitter, condemned by several celebrities and the general public, and dropped by many businesses he had collaborations with, most notably Adidas, Balenciaga and Gap. Even the President of the United States had to release a statement speaking out about Kanye's comments. The anti-Semitic messages had proved to be extremely costly for the artist, but the darkest moments in Kanye's career weren't over yet. For the following months, Ye would double down on his anti-Semitism, stating in one interview how he's long been fascinated by Hitler.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also.
This several month-long breakdown would lead to Kanye being extremely close to financial ruin.
You know, I was two months, I'm gonna just be honest with y'all, I was 2 months from going bankrupt.
With the artist putting everything he had into the collab album with Ty Dolla $ign. I think the best way to describe Vultures would be a successful failure. Commercially, the album broke records, becoming one of the most successful independent albums of all time, with both the project and Carnival going #1 on the billboards. But something just wasn't quite right. For a Kanye album, it was missing the soul that made all of his other projects so special. But I'm not here just to hate on the music, as of course that's subjective, and I actually like several songs from the project. Vultures, however, was a mess from the beginning up until its release, and it all came as a consequence of his comments the year previous. As a result of being dropped by every company he was working with, Kanye had nobody left to distribute Vultures. Every label was distancing themselves from Ye. Now, it's not as if there has ever been a smooth album release from the artist, but the amount of times Vultures got delayed had people believing that this was a repeat of the Yandhi scenario. From the ever-changing tracklist to the constantly delayed release date, the project was flawed through to the day it dropped. And it's not as if the issues ended there. The album hadn't been available on Spotify for a large portion of its release day, whilst at the same time Apple Music was doing everything it could to keep the album from succeeding, with the charts constantly removing Vultures from the top positions, and that's not even to mention the amount of features that Kanye couldn't clear, all as a result of his anti-Semitic comments. Yet, in spite of all of this, the project ended up going #1 in 108 countries. Like I said, commercially the album was a huge success, but it was 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards for Kanye, as he'd gone against everything he stood for in his previous album, Donda. Musically, Ye sounded worse than he has ever done before, with a common opinion being that the artist ruined several of the songs with his lackluster verses. It seemed that after 20 years in the industry, the artist had nothing left to rap about, leaving lust as the only option, defying all of the values Kanye had set in his previous album Donda, an album paying tribute to his faith, God, and most importantly, his mother. Which is why Donda felt like the perfect end for Kanye West, as arguably the most important figure in the life of Ye. A tribute album to Donda West felt like the most Kanye album that he could produce. A beautiful album combining everything that made the artist who he was, his faith in God, his split from Kim Kardashian, righteousness, and of course his late mother. With elements of rap, gospel, drill, and pop, it was one of the most ambitious projects in Kanye's career, and it was completely absent of any profanity. Since the beginning of his career, Kanye has been vocal on his relationship with God.
God show me the way because the devil's trying to break me down.
And it felt like this was the perfect conclusion to his discography. Whilst, of course, it had its flaws related to its release, it's commonly thought of as one of the greatest ever rollouts for an album, as the artist was taking over entire stadiums just to preview his new project.
No trial that we on.
With stunning, thought-out visuals and innovative sounds, Kanye had mastered the art of the rollout. Whilst the main complaint for the album was the fact that it was bloated, it also contained some of Kanye's best-sounding music in recent years, specifically Come to Life.
Did those ideas ever really come to life?
With the album full of reflection and forgiveness from Kanye, it was basically the soundtrack to the conclusion of his long-winded career. It honestly seemed like this was Ye's last attempt to produce a cohesive album with an actual concept behind it, as after Donda, we were witness to the artist's worst run since he came onto the scene. Lazy features, unfinished songs, and empty albums are all we have got out of the artist since 2021. But whilst it may be impossible for Kanye West to continue at the levels we've seen, the artist has ensured his legacy is here to stay by passing it on to his successors. Now, who am I referring to? The two obvious ones that come to mind are Playboi Carti and Travis Scott, with both artists collaborating with Kanye on several occasions. There's been no shortage of Kanye praising and working with both of these artists
fans waiting to Friday
in order to keep his legacy alive. In fact, it's already very evident in Travis's latest album, with some tracks sounding like they came straight off of Yeezus.
I want everybody to make some motherfucking noise for the greatest of all motherfucking time. Yeah! There is no utopia without Kanye West. There is no Travis Scott without Kanye West.
So whilst Kanye himself may not care about his legacy,
what do you hope your legacy is?
To be forgotten.
it will always be kept alive through the new generations.